Hey guys, I'm NPG and this is my patch 7.1 Vengeance Demon Hunter Tanking Guide. I hope you enjoy and you can learn some things from this video. If you do, don't forget to leave a thumbs up down below, subscribe as I'll be bringing you more World of Warcraft content in the future. Without further ado, let's jump straight into this guide. In patch 7.1 there's been a few changes to the Vengeance Demon Hunter. Immolation Aura's damage bonus from Agonizing Flames has been reduced to 30%, this was 50% before, and doesn't make much of a difference to this build as we'll be focusing on tanking, not damage. The main thing in this patch has been the Soul Fragment leech, from Soul Cleave, Soul Barrier and Spirit Bomb. This has been increased from 20 yards to 25 yards. There's also been a change to Spirit Bomb, the Healing Leech has been increased to 15%, that was 10%, and Soul Barrier now lasts for 12 seconds, that's up from 8 seconds. This won't really affect this build as we don't use Spirit Bomb or Soul Barrier. Please feel free to click the annotations below as this will take you to the part of the video you're looking for. The first part of this video will be my talent selection, so here we go. For your 99 talent, you're going to want to take Agonizing Flames. This has been debuffed in this patch from 50% down to 30% damage bonus from your Immolation Aura, but the 30% movement speed increase is really good for mobility. Getting to mobs and bosses faster means more threat and you're doing your tanking job a lot better. The level 100 talent will be Feast of Souls. This gives your Soul Cleave an extra 98k healing over 6 seconds. The more healing you can do as a tank and the more mitigation you can do as a tank, the better for your healers and the less chance they're going to rage quit your dungeons or your raids. Your level 102 talent will be Flame Crash. When you land with Infernal Strike, you'll create a Sigil of Flames. This teams up well with an artifact power we'll be going over later that gives you more leech healing, and in the rotations I'll be showing you how you can proc 4 or 5 Sigil of Flames within the first 30 to 40 seconds that will also heal you. The level 104 talent is Soul Rendering. This gives you a 50% leech while Metamorphosis is active. As a demon hunter is all about being a demon, this is a no-brainer, and it teams up with a lot of other spells in this build that we're going to use. The level 106 talent will be Quicken Sigils. All sigils will activate 1 second faster and their cooldowns will be reduced by 20%. As you'll be using your sigils for crowd control and damage, being able to proc them more and them activating faster will help you take control of the fight. Your level 108 talent will be Fell Devastation. This will unleash the Fell within you, dealing 257,000 fire damage in a conal AoE effect. This can also heal you for up to 633,000 health, which is an amazing amount of leech healing. Your level 110 talent will be Last Resort. This is if you sustain any fatal damage or any damage that's going to kill you, you will activate Metamorphosis and return to 30% health. This talent teams up well with Soul Rendering, as when you die you come back with 30% health in Metamorphosis, and because you're a demon you'll be able to leech 50% of all the attacks you do. In turn this will give you 2 health bars, as when you die you'll be able to leech a full health bar worth of life again. It's amazing how many times this has helped me in dungeons and raids where the healers have died and I've been able to come back and get the last little bit of life off the boss and complete the raid without wiping. That's the talent tree for this build. As you can see, it's very leech heavy. You're leeching a lot of life off the damage you do, and all of this will team up well with an artifact power that we'll get into next. There's only a few talents in the tree you really need to pay attention to, as majority of them are just damage boosts. Here I'll show you how to maximise your talent tree after you've dinged a fresh 110 character, show you the route you should go to better maximise your threat generation and damage output. When you open up your artifact tree, you'll see that you have to select the Soul Carver ability. This will set you on your way to start building your talents. After you've selected your Soul Carver, you want to be heading for the Fueled by Pain Gold talent. So that means taking the left path all the way down to the Fueled by Pain talent. Fueled by Pain is a super OP talent, as it procs quite a lot, and when you combined it with our talent tree talent Soul Rendering, you get a 50% leech when you're in Metamorphosis, so this is just another buff to your leech healing. After Fueled by Pain, you want to stay on the same path and go straight down to the Charred Warblades, picking up the 3 talents in between. Charred Warblades is another OP talent, as it heals you for 15% of all fire damage you do. As most spells we cast are fire damage, this is a really good passive heal that can help us out in dungeons and raids. Teaming this talent up with Flame Crush, that gives you another Sigil of Flame, that's more fire damage and more healing, and Fell Devastation, that heals you for 600k plus does 250k fire damage, that's another passive heal on top of the 600k heal you get. This is extremely overpowered and will keep you alive in most battles. After Charred Warblades, you want to go back to the beginning and start making your way to the right to your last gold talent. This talent is Painbringer, and as you can see I don't have this yet, but it seems super OP as for each soul fragment you consume, you reduce the damage you take by 3% for 4 seconds. And with this build being a health leeching build, the more damage mitigation you can get, the better. That's the 3 gold artifact traits and the path I chose. I do recommend this path as it gives you a lot of leech healing, and you should have your 2nd gold artifact ability before the artifact power cost becomes ridiculously high. There are a couple of other talents on this tree that are not just passive buffs, and will change the way you play the game and change the mechanics of the Vengeance Demon Hunter. The first trait is Siphon Power. This takes your empowered ward and gives it an agility buff by up to 15% for 10 seconds depending on how much damage you take. So for instance, if you're fighting a raid boss and he's about to cause you spell damage, pop your empowered ward, it's going to mitigate 40% of that spell damage, plus the amount of damage he does, you're going to get an extra 15% agility. This will last 10 seconds from when the spell damage stops attacking you. And with the 15% increase to your agility, that's more healing coming in, more damage going out, more fire damage going out, therefore your leech healing will go up, giving you a lot more survivability. The second talent to look out for is Defensive Spikes. This increases your chance to parry by an additional 10% for 3 seconds after you activate Demon Spikes. This just means when you're activating Demon Spikes, be wary of when you activate it and when the damage is actually coming in to hit you. The third talent on this tree that's pretty powerful is the Aldraki design. This increases your chance to parry by 3%. Having a higher parry chance is always good because that means there's less damage coming in. With this being a leech build, you want less damage coming in so you can leech more health off of the damage you do to your opponent. That's the artifact weapon and the talent tree. Now we'll move on to the spells. A quick note before we jump into the spells, the Vengeance Demon Hunter uses a resource called Pain. You'll need more Pain to use certain spells on your action bar, but there'll be spells within your action bar that will generate Pain. These Pain generators will be your main abilities so you can use stronger talents to get more leech healing. The first spells we'll go through are the damaging spells. The first ability is Shear. This is a single target 70k physical damage ability. This ability has a chance to summon a soul fragment which can heal you for up to 73k. It also generates 10 pain and will be your main pain generator. You'll be using this when you have downtime or no pain. The second ability is Immolation Aura. It's an instant cast 12.3 second cooldown area of effect attack. This spell engulfs you in flames and attacks everyone within 8 yards for 78k fire damage, in turn healing you for 15% of that. It also does 18k fire damage every second that lasts 6 seconds, again 15% of that healing you, and it also generates 20 pain over 6 seconds. The third talent is Soul Carver. This is the artifact weapon trait. This spell carves into your opponent, causing 173k fire damage, again giving you 15% of that as a heal, and it also does 115k fire damage over 3 seconds. After this spell is cast, it instantly shatters 2 lesser soul fragments from the target and 1 additional lesser soul fragment every second. We'll go through the next talent and then we'll come back to this talent as they both pair together very well. The fourth ability is Soul Cleave. This uses 30 to 60 pain, it's an instant cast, and the more pain you use, the more healing you will get from this ability. This ability also causes 155k physical damage and heals you for 278k depending on how much pain you spend to cast this move. As well as the healing and the physical damage you get from this spell, it also consumes all of the soul fragments within 25 yards. This brings us back to Soul Carver. Soul Carver will shatter 2 lesser soul fragments from the opponent and 1 additional fragment every 1 second for 3 seconds. So after you've cast Soul Carver, if you wait 3 seconds, there should be 5 fragments floating around the enemy. When you see these fragments floating around, it's time to cast Soul Cleave. This will do 155k physical damage, 278 healing to your character, and consume all of the fragments, which should heal you again for nearly a full health bar. The fifth ability is Infernal Strike. This allows you to leap through the air towards your target, dealing 82k fire damage to all enemies within 6 yards. As well as the flame damage this spell causes, we have teamed this up with the talent Flame Crash, so your Infernal Strike creates a sigil of flame when you land. This brings us on to our 6th talent, Sigil of Flame. Sigil of Flame lets you place a circle of fire damage on the floor that attacks all enemies within the 8-yard radius. It deals an initial 42k fire damage and an additional 46k fire damage over 6 seconds. Teaming both these spells with the artifact weapon trait Charred Warblades, this fire damage will heal you for 15% of all the fire damage you deal. These last two spells are amazing as they put out a lot of fire damage, and teamed with the Child Warblades, 15% of that comes back to you as healing. And as I show you in the rotations, you can keep your Sigil of Flames up for majority of the fight. The last attacking ability is Fell Devastation. We chose this in the talent tree and it costs 30 pain and has a 1 minute cooldown. Fell Devastation unleashes 257k fire damage over 1.6 seconds and causes that damage also to heal you for up to 633k health. And as this spell is fire damage, you also get 15% of the 257k fire damage over the 1.6 seconds. That's it for our attacking abilities. Let's move on to our damage mitigation spells. The first damage mitigation spell is Demon Spikes. This will cost you 20 pain and has a 12.3 second recharge, but you do get 2 charges of this spell. This spell increases your parry chance by 20% and reduces your physical damage taken by a percentage for 6 seconds. I say a percentage as the percentage will go up based on your mastery, as your mastery is Demon Spikes. The more mastery you have, the more percentage will go up and the more physical damage you can mitigate with Demon Spikes. The second spell is Metamorphosis. This has a 3 minute cooldown, being one of the major mitigation spells. You'll be proccing this when you get down to about 10% or 5% life, as it teams up with Soul Rendering, giving you 50% leech. It's a way of filling up your health bar when you're about to die. It also increases your health by 40% for 15 seconds. The third mitigation ability is Fiery Brand. This does a little bit of damage at 185k, but also reduces all damage that opponent does to you for 40% for 10 seconds. This is good for when you're fighting raid or dungeon bosses and you need to take a bit of edge off their powerful attacks. This will knock them down nearly by half. The fourth mitigation spell is Empowered Wards. This is an instant cast 20-second cooldown and it reduces all magical damage taken by 30% for 6 seconds. When teamed up with your artifact ability Siphon Power, your Empowered Ward increases your agility by 15% for 10 seconds. I will go over this more in the rotation and I think I went over it earlier in the guide. That's it for our mitigation spells. We'll move on to the crowd controls. The first crowd control effect is Imprison. This is a 20-yard range 10-second cooldown spell. I've seen a lot of Vengeance Demon Hunters not even use this spell, but as it works on demons and we're in Legion and there's a big demon invasion, there's a lot of them about, and it works as a silence, which means you'll get an extra interrupt. The second crowd control spell is Consume Magic. This is a 20-yard range, 15-second cooldown interrupt. This stops the caster from casting that spell for 3 seconds as well, plus it generates 50 pain on a successful interrupt. Not much more to say about this, it's just our basic interrupt. It does generate pain, which means you can cast more fire damage, giving you more 15% leech healing, keeping you alive for longer. The last two CCs are Sigil of Misery and Sigil of Silence. Sigil of Misery is a fear, it's an 8-yard radius that can be placed on the floor 20 yards around your character, and Sigil of Silence does the same thing, but silences the enemies for 6 seconds. These are really good spells, as if you're fast at casting them, you can use them as interrupts and group interrupts if you're fighting big pools. That's it for the crowd controls. Let's move on to the threat generation spells. The first spell is Throw Glaive. It has a 30-yard range and has 35k damage and also attacks up to 3 enemies, bouncing off the first one. This is a good way of controlling your pools if you just want to take a few people from the left side and not the people from the right. It's always good to have in your toolkit. The second ability is Torment. It has a 30-yard range, an 8-second cooldown, and generates 3 seconds threat to 1 enemy. This is really good if you're looking to pull a raid boss off the other tank, or pull an enemy off a fellow DPS or healer in a dungeon. Torment will keep you in control, so always remember to use it. And that's it for the threat generators. There's a couple of passives that the Vengeance Demon Hunter has, and we'll just go through them now. The first passive is Demonic Wards. Your tattoos reduce magical damage taken by 10% and increase your stamina by 45% and your armor by 120%. I only bring this up because it's always good to know what damage you're resistant to, and when you team it with Empowered Wards, reducing magical damage by 30% plus the 10% from this passive, that's a total of a 40% magical damage reduction. It's always good to know when you're fighting raid bosses. The second passive is Shattered Souls. This is the soul fragment generation from Cleave and other spells that you use. It's not so much this I want to go over, it's the fact that not many people know consuming Demon Souls will grant you 20% increased damage for 15 seconds. Demon Souls are exactly what it says on the tin. When you're fighting a demonoid character in the world and a soul pops out, that's a Demon Soul. So any of them you consume will give you 20% increased damage for 15 seconds. Thanks for being patient with me guys, that's all the spells. We'll move on to the rotations now. As this is a tanking guide for a Vengeance Demon Hunter, there's not really a rotation. We're not looking to put out the best DPS. What we're looking to do is control the fight and take in as much threat as possible. Even though damage can help, you need to mainly focus on keeping your DPS and your healers alive. So here's a couple of little tips and tricks, little rotation things that I use to keep hold of threat and to keep the battle going, and I also put out a decent amount of damage for the gear level I am. This is kind of a rotation showing you how the spells actually work for this class. I've actually slowed it down, I'm not playing full speed, but I'll just show you what the spells do. So that's an Infernal Strike, dealing damage. That's given me a Sigil of Flames, and then now I use a Soul Carver. The Soul Carver is proccing all of them soul fragments. Use Soul Cleave, and it should drag all of these to me, and if my artifact weapon procs, I should get a Metamorphosis. There we go. Now I'm getting leech healing from that Metamorphosis, and you want to rinse and repeat that, and hopefully you'll stay alive. This one's a bit like before, but I just use a bit of mitigation with the Demon Spikes. So jump in Infernal Strike and Soul Carver, Demon Spikes it up, damage reduction if you was getting attacked, and then there we go, a heal, Soul Cleave, brings all the orbs to me. Infernal Strike's there, the Infernal Strike is the Sigil of Flames, and them orbs proc the Metamorphosis, which is more healing. This is just a little trick of how to keep your Sigil of Flame up on your target, giving you the 15% extra healing from your fire damage. I jump in with Infernal Strike, this will give me a Sigil of Flame. Then I cast a Sigil of Flame. When that one's falling off, there's another Sigil of Flame. I'm getting passive 15% healing from this Sigil of Flame. Now another Infernal Strike, which does another Sigil of Flame. That's the third one that I've done, and then now Infernal Strike is up again, use it, get another Sigil of Flame. By the time this one runs out, I'm nearly done with my actual Sigil of Flame spell. It should be off cooldown for 24 seconds. And there we go. What was that, 5 I think? This was just a little bit of gameplay to show you how the Last Resort feature works. As you see, I'm dying here. My character's life is nearly gone, and then the boss has just hit me. Last Resort procs, I'm in Metamorphosis, and now I'm leeching 50% health off of him, getting soul fragments, my life's going up. From nearly dying now, and playing with this standard rotation that I've just showed you, I've got full life again before this Metamorphosis is even gone. I've still got another Metamorphosis in my bio if I wanted to use it, but there's no need to. As you see, Vengeance Demon Hunters are very viable in the raid or dungeon situation. We're going to move on now to a couple of other features that the spells do, and I'll take us out into the world of the Broken Isles. This is just to show you how the empowered wards work. As you see, I'm fighting this guy. He's a bit of a low level, but he will start doing magical damage now. I pop empowered wards, and I'm getting a buff of 1% agility from this low level. If this was a raid boss, it would go straight up to 15% agility, be getting more leech from my fire damage, more damage output. It just helps the whole raid all in all. I do it again, it should proc now, and I get a bit of damage reduction, and there we go. Here's just to show you the silences. I mess up a little bit on this. It could have been a bit better, but I couldn't bother to re-record it. So here we go. I silence her with that spell. Now he casts, I do a Sigil in Flames instead of a Sigil of Misery, but if this was Misery now, and it stops his spell, I can carry on fighting. Next spell they cast, I cast a Sigil of Silence. There we go. That's another interrupt. That's 3 interrupts straight away. And because I'm a Blood Elf, there is a 4th interrupt, which I can't remember what it's called, Arcane Intelligence or something. There we go. That's 4 interrupts on the same fight within the space of about 5 seconds. Okay guys, that's it for the rotations. There's one more thing to do, and that's the stats and your stat priority. Stat priorities are pretty simple. You have stamina and agility, they're interchangeable. If you can't take agility, take stamina. If you can't take stamina, take agility. You always want to be buffing these. You want stamina around 15% and agility around 12%. Versatility around 9%. Normally gear comes with versatility or mastery. So if you can, try and take the versatility. If you get it up to 9%, by all means, take mastery. And then you have haste or crit. So if you can get versatility with haste, that's the best piece of gear that you can get. You want to try and get versatility to 9%, haste to 7%, mastery to 6%, and crit to 4%. This will give you the best damage output and healing input that you can do on a Vengeance Demon Hunter. If you can't get your versatility, haste, mastery, crit, or agility up, you need to enchant. There's a few enchants that you should prioritise over others as a Vengeance Demon Hunter. First of all, you should be trying to enchant your cloak with the Binding of Agility. This permanently enchants your cloak to increase agility by 200%. Then you want to be looking at trying to enchant your rings. Your rings will be enchanted with the Bindings of Versatility. This will give you 200 versatility per ring, which always helps. The third thing, you want to be enchanting your neck with the Mark of the Heavy Hide. This can be quite expensive on the auction house, or if you can make it, that's even better. This permanently enchants your neck piece to increase your armor by 3000 for 10 seconds. This triggers on a random basis, but it triggers quite a lot at the moment in patch 7.1. Sometimes Gearing Well has slots for gems, and if you're looking to gem up your Vengeance Demon Hunter, you should be getting the Versatility Maelstrom Sapphire. This gives you 150 versatility on that piece of gear that can socket a gem. Thanks for watching, guys. I've been MPG. Don't forget to leave comments down below if there's anything you would change, anything you would like to see changed, anything you want me to test out in the future, what videos you want me to do. Just hit me up. Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to leave a thumbs up on this video. Don't forget to subscribe, as there will be more content, gaming content, especially WoW content, coming very, very soon. Again, guys, leave a thumbs up, subscribe. Don't forget to do that. I want to try and get 10 thumbs on this video, 100 views. That's a 10% ratio. If you didn't like it, thumbs it down. Give me your opinion. I've been MPG, the Vengeance Demon Hunter.